All right, everybody. Welcome to the Monday night live stream with Greg and Neil.
We're back.
We're back. We're not going away. We're going to wait just a little bit for some people to get the notifications and that kind of thing. So before we jump into the nitty gritty, welcome, Greg.
Yes, thank you, Neil.
You're
I'm
still
on
on
the
the
road.
road.
I'm on
Yep.
the road.
So you'll be back soon.
Yep.
I was for everybody. I did tease last week that I was going to have a guest on, and then his flight got canceled, and he's now driving back from Fort Lauderdale with his family, and he couldn't be here, so he's coming on next week.
Right, Neil. Right. Sure.
Everybody turned me down, other than Greg. So anyway, we will have a guest next week. We're going to be talking about podcasting and business podcasting with a friend of mine named John Mark, who is a podcaster, and he's going to give us a bunch of awesome advice and details on how podcasting works in a business professional setting, etc. A lot of stuff about podcasts I didn't actually know until I actually started talking to him. So anyway, he'll get to come on. And then we have another exciting thing that I'm putting together that I want to start in the next month. I'm not going to give away all the details yet because we're still sorting some things out, but we're setting up a way of training people through YouTube in a slightly different manner that I think is going to be really helpful for small businesses and for the small business owner. So I'm putting together some information on it right now. And once I have more information and details, I will give that to everybody. We're actually going to be setting up, I'm in a different room in my house, if you might have noticed. We're going to be setting up like a streaming center from here, actually. We're going to have lights and cameras and cool stuff like that. So that is going to be coming soon. The last bit of housekeeping before we get started is we did do a giveaway last week for our subscribers. We had a lot of people enter, so thank you to everybody. We had a number of people sign up for our newsletters and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We were giving away a copy of Fun at Work, Profit First, and our online training courses. And that ended autographed books, autographed Fun at Work book by Greg.
Even Mike Michalowicz.
And by Mike Michalowicz, yep, Profit First, yep. And two courses from us, as well as a like Zoom business meeting one-on-one to help the winner. And I'm not going to give out, all the details of the individual, but so that they know that they won. The winner, as drawn randomly by a computer-generated software of some sort that we don't control, was somebody named Josh out of Spokane, Washington. So Josh is our winner of our giveaway.
Go Josh.
So we will be reaching out to Josh and letting him know that he did win and giving him his online courses and setting up a meeting with him to help him grow his business. And I just realized I'm supposed to change this. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
I just remember I'm supposed to change that. Abby was very adamant about making sure it looked good. Professional. So welcome to everybody. Now that we are done. Hi, Chris. We see your comment. You said you're driving, but you're listening. 2 hands on the wheel, please. So because I had my guest who couldn't make it, we came up with another topic. I presented to Greg, what do you want to talk about tonight on the live? And as always, we draw from interactions that we have with our clients and with people that we know about business to come up with inspiration of what people want to hear about and what they want to talk about. And Greg had an interaction just a couple of days ago. And so why don't you mention, Dad, what it is that you want to talk about topic-wise, and then we can go ahead and start doing our discussion.
All right. So the topic that I want Neil and I to cover tonight is how to make a hard business decision. Now, this could be how to make an easy business decision, but it's more appropriate on how to make a hard business decision. So, like Neil said, I was speaking to someone last week, and they have this idea, and now It looks like a pretty sound idea with all the advice that they're given. There's actually a patent involved. There's already been secured. And so it's now like, okay, so now we need X amount of money to get this started. Um, so what are the options? You can get a partner, you can go to the bank and borrow the money, um, an angel investor, and
Mm.
there's a lot of confusion. So I had to look back over my life because I've made some life changing decisions. Like I graduated from dental school, and then the choices were going to be, do I associate with somebody else? That's a safe route. I can go into the military, they would help reduce some of my student debt. Or I could start or buy my own practice. And for me, it was just like, there isn't any question about any of this. I'm sick of school, so I'm not going to do a residency program. I'm sick of being bossed around. I'm ready to start. And I told my wife, they can have my 1974 Grand Prix and all the pots and pans from our wedding if this doesn't work out. Because if it doesn't work out, okay, my credit might be trashed because I was going to have to borrow $50,000 to get it going. Now, mind you, this is 1981. Interest rate was 21%. There were no 0% credit cards. There were credit cards with over 30% interest.
So it was
So the
21% you've says for it. Was that like the prime rate at the time?
that was the prime rate.
Okay. Just
The
curious.
prime, and today the prime rate is a quarter of a percent or zero.
Yeah, it's
So it's yeah, it's nothing. So so I borrowed the $50,000 at 19.5%. And a year later, I bought a house with a 14.5% mortgage because there was a recession, the economy is crap, all of that. And so, some people thought I was crazy, but it was my business. It was my life. I had control of my life. And then I went to a management company in 1992 and I learned about business basics. And within 12 months, I learned how to market, I learned how to sell, learned how to organize, I learned how to hire. And within 12 months, I was semi retired at age 38. I completely turned my dental practice around and nobody came to my office and told me what to do. I learned. This is what we do on our channel, right? We teach. And then I was offered a partnership to become a partner in that company, that management training company, but it was going to mean selling my house and selling my practice and not being a hands-on dentist anymore. I'd be training dentists, and I decided to do that. But the risk was much higher. So the risk at that point was, well, if this doesn't work out, I can't go back. I just sold what I'd been working on for 12 years. Um, I got to start over. And there were people who thought I was crazy. And so I've made decisions in my life that were decisions that determined the direction of my family, not just me. And for the most part, my decisions have been majorly on the plus side. And I had some chance to reflect on what goes on up here when I'm making a big business decision. And this is what I went over with my friend last week, and I think it really helped him and his family because they're looking at starting this family business. So I want to break this down tonight as far as what are the three factors that you have to take a look at when you're going to make a big business decision. And like I say, it applies to a small business decision. But for me, it boils down to these three things. First of all, the ultimate is control. So, how much control do you want to end up with at the end of the day? So, if we go back to dental school, the decision to borrow $50,000 at 19.5%. And by the way, I was paying my staff for months. I was paying my staff more than I was making so I could make the payments and all of that. I did not care. Number one factor, control. So I was going to have control over my own future, over my own destiny.
So you're saying if you brought in a partner, you would no longer be the sole decision or the sole decider
Right.
of what was going on.
Right. So if I would have gone, let's say I could get the bank would give me $50,000 and I could go buy in to somebody else's practice, but then I don't have control. So control is number one. But here's the other part of this. These other two parts, it's a balance of these three things in my mind. And when I was talking to this friend last week, it made sense to him and his family. The other factor is risk tolerance. So how much risk can you tolerate? So what I told my wife is I can have my 1974 Grand Prix and the pots and pans from our wedding. And so there was very, very little risk. If it didn't work out, okay, maybe I would have crappy credit or bankruptcy. But see, I knew I was never going to go bankrupt because my back door, and see, here's for me, this is the part of risk tolerance that the people really have to take a look at. Okay, so the saying goes, hope for the best and plan for the worst. Well, I plan for the best, but I also plan for the worst. So what if this goes bad? What if
Hmm.
I cannot pay my bills? Well, if I cannot pay my bills, I can still go associate 2 or 3 days a week. I was 45 minutes from South Bend, tons of dentists in South Bend. I'm in a little farm town south of there, tons of dentists. So if I can't keep my practice open 5 days a week or 4 days a week, then I'll keep my practice open 2 or 3 days a week, but it's still my practice. And I'll go work for somebody else and they can pay me. But that's not permanent because I want to have ultimate control. I'm going to own my business. So the worst case scenario that made it completely palatable was that I was going to have to go work for somebody else anyway. I'm like, okay, whatever. I have my practice. If I have to go work for somebody a few days a week so that I can pay my bills. So I plan for the best, but I also plan for the worst. Okay, so now you have to balance control against your risk tolerance. And really, it's your risk tolerance of the worst case scenario.
Hmm.
Everybody can tolerate the best case scenario. That's what you're hoping for. Right now, here's the final factor. Right, the final factor is confidence. How much confidence do you have? And so these are independent traits, characteristics, and circumstances and situations that everybody has to bring into the mix. All right. So if I looked at my worst case scenario that I was going to have to go work for somebody else, I was very confident that I would get a job.
Okay.
All right. So even right now today, and I don't know the numbers back in 1981, I actually did very, very little research on it because I just knew it wasn't going to it wasn't going to be that way. Um, Today, there are 190,000 dentists in the United States. And that includes researchers and teachers who don't practice. So if you divide that amongst 50 states, I mean, that's not a lot of people. There's only
And 300
190.
and 340 million people or whatever it is.
Right. 50 states, 340, you only have 190,000 dentists. So it's kind of like, all right, so you're going to be able to find a job. So then can you tolerate the worst scenario? Do you have confidence that you could pull yourself out of the worst case scenario?
Right.
And so I wanted to do, and I'm going to give you another example of this because there's many examples. And I want people who are listening to punch in a comment. Give me a scenario. Well, what about this? What about that? If you have something that you're thinking about for you or a friend, then throw it in the comments. Um, so my business was struggling. I was operating underneath the break-even point, and I needed to buy this business training. And all my credit cards are maxed out. Well, that's not true. I had $5,000 left on my last card. I had a $25,000 line of credit that was completely maxed out. And I needed $25,000 to do this business training. So I was going to get a $3,000 discount if I registered that day. Now, that does sound a little shady, but I had a friend who was 2 years ahead of me in dental school who had gone through this business program and was doing double my numbers. And quite honestly, that was pissing me off. So I knew that if he could do it, I could do it. And he and I joke about that to this day. So I'm like, I'm doing this. So I called the bank and I asked for $22,000 to be wired now. That was part of the agreement with the offer that was on the table. And the banker was very nervous about that. This company was 3 years old. And the banker and I are kind of going back and forth. He's like, Greg, I don't know. This just doesn't sound right. This is highly unusual. Wiring funds. Now this is in 1992. That's more common today. I mean, today you can just go online and I don't know, people throw
You can
money,
do whatever you want
right?
nowadays.
You can do whatever you want. And so here was the bottom line because I was very confident. Now remember, I'd spoken to my friend and he had nothing on me. I had nothing on him. He's a good guy, good dentist. But if he could do it, I knew I could do it. That was confidence. And I was tired of my practice being out of control. It was out of control during this recession. My strip mall had emptied out. There's 100,000 square feet empty, and me and a laundromat. Right. So I'd lost control. So I wanted control back, and I had confidence because my friend said, just do what they say. So the banker is pressing me. He's not going to do this. And I said, Glenn, here's what you and I both know. If they take this money and tomorrow go to Canada, I'm going to pay you back. Now, what I was telling him is I was prepared to make the loan payment on $22,000 and get no service. That was my worst case scenario. And I could tolerate that. That that was fine. I could tolerate that. When I sold my practice and started with that company as a partner, all right, what is the worst case scenario? Okay, it's still a new company. The revenue was not good at all, but I wanted to do it. I knew I could do it. I'd already done it. I knew I could teach people how to do it. So I was confident. What if it went bad and the company went under? All right, well, I still have my dental degree. I can't go back to Indiana to the community where I just sold the practice. I'm going to have to go start over. So could I tolerate that? Yes, because the reward, the gain was on the other end of playing a bigger game, having an international company, which we have now with clients in 48 states, half the provinces in Canada, et cetera, et cetera. So, so here's what this boils down to is a balance in your universe, in your mind. How much control do you want to have? How much control are you willing to surrender? Because see, if you bring on a partner, you're surrendering control. However, the risk is now mitigated. It's reduced because now that risk, that loan, that I don't know, $100,000 or whatever. Okay, you have a partner now that's going to share it with you. Now, a partnership is a marriage. What if this partnership goes south? How do we get out of this? You have to take a look at planning for the worst. So for me, this is all about three things. How confident are you? What is your risk tolerance? And how much control do you want or are you willing to surrender? And you can take these three factors now and you have to kind of like get settled in with what your tolerance is, your range of control. Do you want or willing to surrender? Your confidence, how much do you have or how much do you not have? Tolerance for the worst case scenario. That's really what we're talking about. Is your tolerance of what happens if this goes bad? Are you willing to like, you know, have it all go south and still owe your creditors?
Got it.
Is that
Okay.
making sense?
So, oh yeah,
Does this
definitely.
make sense? Does this make sense only in my head, or is this because
No, 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 no. It makes
Neil,
great
Neil
sense.
and I, Neil and I have never talked about this.
Well, you definitely never consulted me on any of these decisions.
and and they definitely determined the course of your life.
um, well, I guess what would we say? Um, okay, so that all makes sense, right? If we go back to the person that you talked to this weekend and you were going over this with, they were trying to decide, do we bring in a partner? Do we bring in an investor so that we don't have to put as much out of pocket to make this thing go,
Right,
et cetera, right? Now, they
right,
seem, I don't know the whole story, but they're confident that what they have is a business, right?
for sure.
Okay. So then they're just trying to figure out, okay, so we have this idea. Do we forward all the resources into it to make it workable, or do we bring somebody else in, right?
Yeah, who's going to share the risk
Right.
But then my point is, okay, they're sharing the risk, but
They're
by
also
you,
sharing control.
you're gaining the sharing of the risk. You're losing control because now you have to share
Right.
control.
Right. And not to deviate too far off track
No.
because sometimes these things go into a few different directions for us. It makes me think of the Shark Tank where
Yeah.
people come in and they are like, I've got this great idea. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I need an investor.
Yeah.
And the investors are kind of weighing the same thing. They're saying, well, is this somebody that I can work with, or is this somebody I'm going to murder in 3 weeks because I'm
Yep.
not going to put X amount of dollars in if I'm going to murder somebody?
Hmm.
Because a lot of times the people that go on Shark Tank, this isn't everybody, they have this business and they have no idea what the hell to do with it. They don't know where to
Hmm.
go with it. They're just like, I need help. I need,
Right.
so they're willing to give up control because by themselves, they're like, what do we do?
Right.
Right. And not everybody is like that. And not
Hmm.
everybody um, has that problem. Right.
And if you take a look at the sharks are going through this process.
Hmm.
So the sharks, so they're going to give, I don't know, $100,000 for 10% of the company. All right. So what is their risk tolerance on 100,000? Well, they're all multimillionaires. Cuban's a billionaire. Okay, so $100,000 is a lot of money. They have to be willing to lose that money. That's like worst case scenario. But then, and you've seen this, that as that person is making the pitch, what is the shark's level of confidence in that person?
Yep.
Because the sharks aren't going to invest 100,000. They're not going to invest 1 million and then go in and run the company.
Right.
That's not why they're doing this. They're basically angel investors. They have connections. Lori Grenier is going to get you on QVC. Everybody knows that, et cetera, et cetera. And and so take a look at the sharks now as they're looking at this pitch.
Hmm.
And then you've seen, if you watch Shark Tank, and Neil and I are Shark Tankaholics, if you watch Shark Tanks, you've seen a lot of deals start to spin out. The craziest one is a guy walks in and he wants $100,000 for 15% of his company. And somebody goes, good, I'm going to give you $100,000 for 15% of your company. And then the guy goes, well, can I hear everybody else's offer? I'm like, okay, you can get away with that for about 30 seconds or 60 seconds. And Neil's laughing, right? So all of a sudden, the shark that had,
So many people walk out with nothing because they
yes,
couldn't make up their frickin' mind.
that's right. That's right. And so now if I'm a shark, I'm looking at this person who walked in, they made a good pitch. It looks like they got their act together, and now I give them exactly what they want. And like, okay, so somebody else says this and somebody else says that. If you watch Lori Grenier, Lori will tolerate that for about 20 seconds.
Hmm.
Like, you know what? I'm out.
Hmm.
And man, it is a domino effect. Lori goes, this one goes, that one goes. Cuban's like, dude, you blew it. And then they turn around and walk out with nothing. And so
I actually
this,
did a video that we can't air on YouTube. It was up for like 5 minutes 3 years ago, and then it got taken down, even though I didn't violate any copyright laws. But Lori is the best individual closer of all of the sharks because she's so decisive. And she knows as soon as she decides she wants somebody, she sells them.
yep,
And then as soon as she sees something she doesn't like, she bails.
yep.
But she's actually the best closer, I think, of
But see,
the
it's her
Sharks.
confidence. It's her
Hmm.
confidence. And if you look at these pitches on Shark Tank, people are all excited and they're perky and they're happy. And then what are your sales?
Nothing.
$13,000. In what period of time? 13 years. Like what? You know, so then the if we switch it around again, the shark loses confidence in that person that they're asking $100,000 for.
Hmm.
But I want to circle this back around to like a
Now,
more
really
real
quickly,
life.
I just
Oh,
want
go
to
ahead.
comment.
Oh, go ahead.
Chris put some comments in there. Hi, Chris. She's kind of walking through the process of like when she and her husband decided to build a new building for their business. They were going to be taking on a lot of debt. And she said that they knew that one, their marriage was strong enough and would remain intact. Two, she could always return to nursing and repay the loan. And three, if they had to be poor for a while, they could handle that.
Wow.
So that is
Wow. That's
exactly what you're
intense.
talking about right there.
That is intense. That's
I bet she
exactly what
didn't
I'm
ask her
talking
kids
about, Chris.
either.
What's that?
I bet she didn't ask her kids either.
She probably didn't. So there are some people that we have as clients that I super respect and admire. So last year we started working with a painter. He got a college degree in finance. He went into a, a hospital setting in the purchasing department. Was there for 8 or 10 years at a 401k, a good salary, but hated having the 9 to 5 job, the corporate structure. And I think his dad had a painting company when he was younger, and he had helped his dad. He says, "You know what? I'm starting a painting company. I'm done with this." He walked away from the 401k, his seniority, to start his own business. And I admire the hell out of that.
Hmm.
What was the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is he's going to have to go back to purchasing. What was the upside? Well, I'm going to have my own business. I'm going to have control. And so when we met with him, we helped him put on all the profit first accounts. We helped him lay out his whole hiring structure, set him up with his basic purpose, his strategic plan. And I saw him 2 weeks ago at my networking meeting. He's not picking up a paintbrush anymore.
Wow.
And and I didn't have a chance to ask him like what he's making now compared. But right now he's making money and he's not picking up a paintbrush. And there isn't any doubt he's going to make more, tons more, than when he was in that safe system being controlled with no risk. He could
It's really
show up.
interesting. Yeah, go finish that. Finish it.
I say he could show up, do his job, get his 401k in his retirement account, and all he'd have to do is be there for another 25 years, and he would be on Easy Street. And he let all of that security go to get control.
It's interesting that you mentioned it because, by the way, Chris says that she didn't ask the children and they decided to have another one. So,
That's
um,
awesome.
so it's interesting you mentioned that. It's funny how just for everybody watching, whatever, we never really have an idea of a script, a pattern. Me and Greg just
where
start going and
where this is
we just
going?
start moving. But you just said
Yeah.
something that was very interesting to me. So my brother-in-law lives down here in Florida now, and he's a mason. So he fixes stones and stuff like that. He doesn't do like, driveways and, he's a repair. They do repairs, chimneys, walkways, patios, things like that. So he's actually from Canada and he's had this business in Canada for like 15 or 20 years. And now he runs his business from Canada while he's in Florida. And he goes back a couple times a year to run things, but they have subcontractors and, he does all of it from here. So last year, especially with the coronavirus stuff going on, and Canada goes through its cold season, which is, like 6 months out of the year where the ground is frozen and they don't do masonry. He started doing masonry down here and he's already got jobs, he's got things moving, and now he's getting subs down here, and he's actually duplicating what he did in Canada while
Nice.
he's down here, right? But
Nice.
he told me just this weekend that he has another guy who does the same thing as him that he's known for years. It's masonry repairs, and this guy keeps asking my brother-in-law, like, so how do you do it? Like, how do you get other people to do the work and sub it out and all that stuff? And he keeps telling him, okay, this is what you do.
Right.
And if you do this, you can be like me and have people going out and doing the work for you. The guy can't do it.
Now
He
let me tell
can't
you why.
he
I'll tell you
can't
why.
not be the guy in the field doing the masonry repairs as much as he says he wants other people to do it. So here's my brother-in-law basically with two companies
Right.
doing masonry repairs, one in Canada, one in Florida,
Right.
and he's leaving in a couple of weeks to go to Canada for a month, and the business down here is still going to keep going
Mhm.
with his one or two subs that he's got and some jobs. And here's this other guy who's been doing it longer than him who can't not be the guy going out into the field. So,
Okay, so this guy is missing one of these three things or a balance of combination of all.
mhm,
He's unwilling to surrender control.
yep,
He has to be in control. He's unwilling to surrender control of the job.
yep,
He has no risk tolerance for paying somebody. So
yep,
he's going to have to pay somebody, I don't know, $20 an hour.
Yep.
He has no tolerance to pay somebody $20 an hour, or he has no confidence at all in his ability to hire or manage or whatever. So if you would sit down with this guy and do an interview on him in these three areas of control, risk, Luna, only when I'm trying to make a final point.
Only when you're trying to make the punchline, Luna's like, "Hey, I'm here too,
I'm
guys."
here too. Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
She's like, yes, Greg is right. I validate what Greg is saying.
Yes, exactly.
You can sit down and do an interview on the guy and find out, is he just completely unwilling to surrender control? Is he low on confidence, or is he low on his tolerance of paying somebody $20 an hour to do his job? And I'll tell you, when you hire somebody, you have to be willing to pay them $20 an hour and have them mess it up and go
Yep.
back and fix it. That's all part of your risk tolerance. And so somebody who doesn't have that level of risk tolerance, like your brother-in-law has two successful companies now, and he doesn't have to work because he has control, he has tolerance for risk, and he has confidence that he can pull it off.
Yep.
And so this is really the message that I wanted to get across tonight. And quite honestly, it's really kind of funny as I was looking at this situation with my friend. I'm like, well, what would I do in this situation? And I started looking at all of their options. I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
would never do this. I would never do. Why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I do this? And this whole thing actually formulated in my head. I think I'm going to write, I don't know, an ebook or something about this, because I honestly just put it together in about the last week. But these are the factors that come into play whenever I'm making a decision. I have to share this. I have to
Yeah.
share this. Okay. Because this is not a big decision. Well, so did you see the video of Tom Brady with the Lombardi trophy
Oh, yes.
throwing it from one boat to another?
Yep.
You saw that video.
Yes, that was very disrespectful to the Lombardi trophy.
Whatever. So I looked at that and I applied this process to that video. Okay, now work with me on this. Work with me on this.
Okay.
So if I'm Tom Brady, I'm sizing it up. All right, now I understand he had been drinking. Let's take alcohol out of it. I'm Tom Brady and I'm
And
swinging
let's
this
just be
thing.
honest, a drunk Tom Brady is a better quarterback than 99% of human beings on this planet. So,
No doubt. No doubt. And I don't remember if it was Gronk on the other
it
boat.
was Gronk. Yeah, it was Gronk.
Okay. So he had confidence. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm Tom
Yeah.
Brady and I'm sizing this up. Okay, this is crazy. I may just about be ready to throw the Lombardi trophy into the water. Now, here's what I'm going to go with. If it goes in the water, I'm rich and I can hire scuba divers to go get it. If it goes in the water and it hits the muck and it goes all the way down to the core of the earth and it can't be found, I'm rich. I can pay for another one.
10
So that
grand.
is, yes, 10 grand.
That's all it was.
No,
Apparently, that's what they said. It's the
that,
mystique of the trophy that costs so much. It's not.
it's not $100,000 gold plated trophy.
I don't
Well,
think
at
so.
any rate,
Anyway, keep going. I'm
at
going to
any
Google
rate,
this.
at, at any rate, so I'm sizing up my risk tolerance. So I am Tom Brady. I'm rich. I can tolerate and handle if it goes in the water, and I can tolerate and handle replacing it. All right. Now I'm also sizing this up. How confident am I? Are you kidding me? I'm Tom Brady. I'm the greatest of all time. And I'm throwing it to Gronk.
Yep.
Gronk has hands.
Yep.
So I'm good. He sized it up. And with his athletic ability, he measured the weight as he's swinging it back and forth. And he put it right between the numbers
Yep.
on Gronk. He caught it right here, just like, a touchdown pass. So I'm just saying this applies to every decision, really. So what are you
And
looking
by the
at?
way, it's 50. Apparently, according to Google, it's 50 G's for the Lombardi.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So
So
again, not much,
yeah, yeah.
comparatively speaking. But this is also interesting. And again, we're going off into another area. You and I are motorsports people. We're fans of car racing. We're fans of motorsports. I'm fans
Yep.
of extreme sports. You know, um, people like Formula One drivers. These guys, Travis Pastrana jumping on a dirt bike and doing a double backflip. Most human beings go, they're effing nuts. I mean, these guys are just insane. But yet when you talk to them, they're just like, yeah, it could happen, but whatever. Um, and they die doing it. I mean, I was watching the Winter X Games 7 or 8 years ago when a guy on a snowmobile was doing a double front flip and crashed really badly, and then it was announced he died an hour later. But you watched him die on live TV and you didn't know it. I mean,
Hmm.
and it's just nobody who knew the guy blames anybody. And
Hmm.
that's what it blows my mind the most. There wasn't protests outside of ESPN for airing the X Games. It's like the people who watch the X Games, people go to the X Games, the guy's family are like, he died doing what he loved doing. That's all it was.
And if you want to see a really interesting interview, you should go to YouTube and watch Travis Pastrana be interviewed by Graham Bensinger,
Yep. That's a very good
Bensinger.
interview.
It's incredible. There was a sentence that Travis said that that just blew my mind, but it is so accurate. So Graham Bensinger says, "How many concussions have you had?" And Travis was making a light-handed joke. He says, "I don't remember." It was like he can't remember.
Yeah.
and Graham is like, "You have broken so many bones in your body. Why do you do this? Because I mean, if you want to see something incredible, watch Travis Pastrana jump out of an airplane without a parachute.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about risk tolerance, right? So these guys, like Neil was saying, are willing to die for doing what they're doing, right? And yes, they train. And Travis didn't do that double backflip where he could have killed himself and landed on his head. That was not his first effort. He'd been practicing into a foam pit at his house for, I think, over a year. But here's the point. What Travis said is he said, "Graham, most people live their life trying not to die. But I'm going to live my life making sure that I lived." And so, as far as the game, control, risk tolerance, confidence, these guys can tolerate, they have the risk tolerance of death. But, which is crazy, right?
It's just crazy when you say the words.
It is. But get this, being safe and not taking a risk for
Yep.
them is worse.
But also they're smart enough. They're not like how do you say it? They're the decision making is smart enough that it's not like um you know how could I find a
They have confidence that they're going to pull it
they
off.
have they have confidence enough that they're going to
That's
do it,
it. They have
and if
confidence.
they see something and they're like, nope, that's nope, I'm going to back out of this,
Yeah.
that's too sketch,
Hmm.
that's whatever, they
Yeah.
will.
They will.
But it is interesting when you look at it from that perspective of what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
They don't have a death wish. So they
Correct.
practice, they practice, they practice, they size it up. I mean, watch Travis Pastrana jump between two skyscrapers in Las Vegas from the roof of one to the roof of another one, right? And he had barriers and nets and all kinds of stuff on the other side. And so it's planned and there's confidence, but the tolerance of risk is what if it goes bad? So
Yep.
that's my point here, in that even this, I love the Tom Brady story of throwing the Lombardi trophy across the water. It's kind of like he could tolerate the worst case scenario. And it was simply, I guess a $50,000 trophy or some scuba divers to find the original.
Yeah.
And so this really does apply to your life. Domestic Chris, thanks for kicking in. I admire the hell out of what you and your husband have done. Um, Domestic Chris is now, and her husband are part of our Adventure to Profit. Have you been putting that up tonight, Neil? Adventure to Profit?
Yeah, I had it down here. I'll put it up again.
Yeah.
Adventure to Profit is how you can
Yeah. So she's
join in to
on
work with
board.
us.
She's on board. We're mentoring her. And this lady is amazing. She's on her calls. She's got one kid on this hip, and she's making dinner and talking about what's happening at the coffee shop. And so, see, that's what I love. That's what I admire. I admire our clients. I admire entrepreneurs. I admire that spirit of risk tolerance and confidence. We're just going to make it go no matter what. Like Chris, I see it here in the comments. Now, yeah, I could always go back to nursing and pay back the loan if I had to. I
Yeah.
love that spirit. I love that confidence. I love that attitude. You guys are going to do awesome. You guys are
Which,
going to do awesome.
by the way, going back really quickly about Pastrana, the last video that they put up, you remember that Ken blocked the Gymkhana videos where he'd be doing all the crazy stuff? So
Hmm.
Travis did the last one, and he went through the streets of Annapolis, Maryland. I don't know
Yeah,
if you saw that one or not.
I didn't see that one.
Anyway, he's ripping through those curvy roads of Maryland, and he hits 150 over a jump in the Subaru. So he is flying. He does 150 and hits a crest and just launches. And that was all legit.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
unbelievable.
just to talk about him again. But
Well, and
so
there was a video they did. He was on the lineup to get a NASCAR ride, and he dropped out. He said it was too boring.
yeah, he said he couldn't NASCAR
It
was
was
too
too boring.
boring. He
So
also said that he couldn't understand it because it was so different that he was wrecking people. He didn't even know it. It was really funny. I recently watched like a 2 hour podcast that he had done. I had on in the background while I was working. Um, Anywho,
okay, so
I
the
do
bottom
also
line.
want to say,
Oh,
I
go ahead.
also want to
Go
say
ahead.
that we did do this turned into another area. Um, on February 10th, we released a video called Decision Making and Leadership. So anybody who did not watch the decision making and leadership video should also check that one out if you haven't already, because
Hmm.
that's anyway, I'm looking at Chris there. Chris says she wants to win. She said, if I know you, I win, right? That's right,
That's right.
Chris.
If you know us, you win. You're
That's right.
there.
That's
You're
how it
there.
works.
See, all we need from our clients is the raw material. That's all we need. We just
Well,
need
we
the raw
need,
material.
this does come back to why are we successful with other people and why we're not successful with a few people is
Hmm.
they have to be willing to decide for themselves
Yep.
what they want to do. And it's pretty sad when somebody can pay you money and say, "What should I do?" And then you say, "This is what you do." And then they go, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I should do that." Like, I can't
Yep.
help you, man. Like, you can't even go grocery shopping and figure out what you're going to eat for the week.
Right.
Those are people that should go get a partner and
Yeah.
somebody who's just going to run them, you
Yep.
know. But if
Yeah.
you want to work for yourself, then, keep the control, keep it inside of what it is that you're doing.
Yep. So don't forget, making a decision is a balance of control, risk tolerance, and confidence. That really is what it boils down to. And
Yep.
then all you have to do is be more right than wrong.
Yep. And if you're uncertain of something, do your research and find out and get more certainty on whether it is a good idea or it is a bad idea. But
Get more training, get more
yeah,
confidence. Yeah.
don't take weeks, months to figure it out. You know, that's,
Mhm.
I've told this story before, I think, but a while ago, I met with a couple of business owners at the practice management company, and I met with them, and I got all the information about the business and how much money they're making and what they're doing. And they were like, "Yeah, we want to grow, we want to do better." And it turns out they had been to one of my meetings like 4 years prior to that. And when I compared the numbers of what their business was doing today versus 4 years ago, they answered every question the same.
You
And I
had
said,
their
listen,
interview
it's been,
sheet from 4 years ago.
yep,
Wow.
completely nothing had changed. We want to do better. We know we can do better. Great. This is how you do it. We really have to think about it. I said, listen, you thought about it 4 years ago. They got really upset at me. They actually walked out, and I was fine with that because I said,
Yeah.
listen, if I come back 4 years from now and you're doing the same numbers you are now, are you okay with that? No, we want to do better. I said, don't BS me. I said, if you made the same amount of money you're doing now from the next 4 years, are you going to be okay? They said, yes. I said, good. That's why you can't decide.
Yep. They
They
couldn't.
were okay with it. They're okay
Yeah.
with it. If they're okay with it, I can't do anything.
Right.
You know? Yes, I
Yep.
want to do better. Okay, decide that you want to change something if you're going to do better. Otherwise, you're screwed. And
But and you were asking them for $10,000, and they had no tolerance of risk for investing $10,000 to do
Yeah,
better. They didn't.
and they
It
had
didn't
plenty of
matter.
money. It's not like it
It
was an
didn't matter.
issue. No, it
Right.
just didn't matter, right?
Yep.
So anyway,
Yep.
that just
All
comes
right. Well,
back
I
to that
hope this has
decision
been
making.
helpful.
Yeah.
Leave some comments in the comment section down below after this is posted.
Yes, and stay tuned to the channel. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, I want to announce the next little thing that I'm putting together. It's going to be a lot of fun for people. It's going
The
to be a
next
great,
evolution.
yeah, it's going to be a great learning experience for everybody, and it's going to create something that I think is very unique. So anyway, stay tuned to that. Give us a like, share this with a friend. You know, let other people know what we're doing every Monday, 7 o'clock. You can come and hear us. You can visit adventuretoprofit.com to learn how to work with us. And we will see you next week where I will have a guest,
Guaranteed.
not Greg, hopefully. He's the guy who really wants to do it. My friend really wants to come in. His flight got canceled. Then he had to drive back from Fort Lauderdale. And he had the kids in the car. And I was like, well, let's do this
That's
the
not going to
right way.
work.
Let's do this the right way. So anyway, that's all we have for you guys tonight. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. We've got 2 more videos coming out this week as usual. And next Monday, we'll have another live. So we will see you all later. Good night.